I am going to tell you something nobody wants to hear. Your 50s and 60s are not a dress rehearsal. They are not the warm-up act. They are the main event, and most of you are sleepwalking through them. I am 80 years old. I was born in 1945, 3 months after the war ended. I have been a wife, a mother, a widow, a teacher, a patient, a caregiver, and now an old woman who spends most of her time in a chair by the window watching the world go by. And from this chair, with 8 decades of living behind me, I can see exactly where most of you in your 50s and 60s are making the same mistakes I made. You think you are in the middle of your life. You are not. You are at the end of the easy part. My name is Eleanor. I taught high school English in Boston for 34 years. I retired at 68, which means I spent my entire 50s and most of my 60s working full-time, raising teenagers who became adults, caring for aging parents, and telling myself I would do all the things I wanted to do later. I would travel later. I would write that novel later. I would spend real time with my husband later. I would get in shape later. I would make new friends later. Later came, and by the time it arrived, my husband had Alzheimer's. My knees were shot. Half my friends had moved to Florida or died, and I no longer had the energy for any of it. So this is not coming from someone who figured everything out. This is coming from someone who got most of it wrong and is hoping you will not make the same mistakes. Lesson number 1. Your body is keeping a tab, and the bill is coming due faster than you think. When I was 54, I could eat whatever I wanted and maintain my weight with minimal effort. I could stay up late grading papers and still function the next day. I could carry groceries, climb stairs, sit on the floor with my grandchildren, and pop back up without thinking about it. I took all of that for granted because it had always been true. By 62, I noticed my knees hurt after long walks. By 65, I needed reading glasses and could not remember where I put them. By 70, getting down on the floor to play with my great-grandchildren meant I needed someone to help me back up. By 75, I had gained 40 pounds I could not lose no matter what I tried. By 78, I needed a knee replacement. Here is what nobody tells you about your 50s and 60s. This is your last chance to build the body that will carry you through your 70s and 80s. The strength you build now, you get to keep for a while. The strength you do not build now, you will never have. Every doctor I have seen in the last decade has said the same thing. I wish you had started strength training in your 50s. I wish I had too, but I was busy. I was tired. I told myself I would get to it later. You do not get to it later. Later, your body does not respond the same way. Later, you are managing injuries instead of preventing them. Later, you are trying to maintain what you have instead of building what you need. If you are in your 50s or 60s and you are not actively, deliberately strengthening your body, you are setting yourself up for a decade of decline that could have been prevented. I am not talking about running marathons. I am talking about being able to get out of a chair without using your arms. I am talking about carrying your own groceries. I am talking about not falling. I fell last year. I broke my hip. I spent 6 weeks in rehab learning to walk again, and the whole time, all I could think was, I could have prevented this if I had been stronger. You still have time, but not much. Lesson number 2. The people you love are not guaranteed to be here in 10 years, and you need to act like it. My husband Richard and I were married for 52 years. We met when I was 19. He was my best friend, my partner, my person. And for most of our marriage, we were so busy that we barely saw each other. He worked in finance. I taught high school. We raised 3 children. We paid the mortgage. We managed our parents' decline. We did what everyone does. We told ourselves we would travel when we retired. We would take that trip to Italy. We would spend winters somewhere warm. We would finally have time for each other. Richard was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at 67. We never took the trip to Italy. We never spent winters somewhere warm. We never had the retirement we planned. By 70, he did not remember our children's names. By 73, he did not remember mine. He died at 76, and I spent the last 9 years of our marriage watching him disappear piece by piece. I would give anything to go back to my 50s and take the trip, to skip the overtime, to say no to the committee work and the extra responsibilities and all the things that felt so important at the time, but were not. Because here is the truth. Your spouse, your parents, your siblings, your friends, none of them are guaranteed to make it to 80. Some of them are not going to make it to 70. And when they are gone, you are not going to wish you had worked more or saved more or kept a cleaner house. You are going to wish you had said yes to the spontaneous weekend trip. You are going to wish you had stayed up late talking instead of going to bed early because you had to work in the morning. You are going to wish you had prioritized the people you love over everything else. Richard has been gone for 4 years. I can still see him at the kitchen table reading the newspaper. I can still hear his laugh. I can still feel his hand in mine. But I cannot get back the years we wasted being too busy. Do not be too busy. The work will still be there. The person you love might not be. Lesson number 3. Retirement is not an ending. It is a stripping away of everything you thought you were. I spent 34 years as Mrs. Callahan, the English teacher. I was good at my job. I loved my students. I knew who I was and what I was for. And then I retired, and suddenly I was just Eleanor, an old woman with nowhere to be and nothing particular to do. I thought retirement would be freedom. It was terrifying. For the first year, I slept until 9 o'clock, which I had never done in my life. I watched too much television. I felt useless and invisible and deeply, profoundly lost. My children were worried. My friends did not know what to say. I did not know what to say either because I could not explain what was wrong. What was wrong was that I had spent my entire adult life being defined by my job, and without it, I had no idea who I was. It took me 3 years to figure it out. 3 years of volunteering at the library, taking painting classes, joining a book club, and slowly, painfully, building a new identity that was not tied to what I did for a living. But those 3 years were brutal, and they did not have to be. If you are in your 50s or 60s and your job is your whole identity, you are heading for a crisis. Start building a life outside of work now, not when you retire, now. Develop hobbies that have nothing to do with productivity. Make friends who do not know you as your job title. Figure out what you love when nobody is paying you to do it, because the day you retire, if all you are is your job, you are going to be nothing, and nothing is a terrible thing to be. Lesson number 4, your children do not need your money or your advice. They need your time, and you are running out of it. I have 3 children. David is 57. Jennifer is 54. Michael is 50. They are all successful, self-sufficient adults with children and careers and problems I cannot fix. When they were in their 30s and 40s, I spent a lot of energy trying to help them. I gave them money when they were struggling. I gave them advice about their marriages and their careers and how to raise their children. I showed up with solutions to problems they did not ask me to solve. I thought I was being a good mother. I was being controlling. What they actually needed was for me to show up and be present, to hold their babies without critiquing how they were doing it, to listen to their stress without offering a 5-point plan, to sit at their tables and eat their food and ask about their lives without trying to manage them. It took me until my 70s to learn how to do that, and by then I had done real damage to my relationship with Jennifer. We did not speak for 2 years because I could not stop trying to fix her life. Your adult children are adults. They do not need you to solve their problems. They need you to witness their lives. They need you to be their mother or their father, not their consultant. And they need your time more than they need anything else, because you do not have as much time left as you think. I am 80. My son David is 57. If we are both lucky, I might have 5 or 10 years left. That is not very long. And I do not want to spend those years arguing about money or giving unsolicited advice or being someone he has to manage instead of someone he wants to see. I want to spend them being his mother, finally. Lesson number 5. The friends you have at 50 are not the friends you will have at 80, and you need to build a network now. When I was 55, I had a tight circle of 6 women I had known since my 30s. We called ourselves the book club, though we rarely talked about books. We met once a month for 25 years. We knew everything about each other. I thought those friendships would last forever. Susan died at 68, breast cancer. Patricia died at 71, stroke. Marianne moved to Arizona to be near her daughter, and we lost touch. Laura has dementia and does not remember who I am. Joan and I are the only ones left, and she is 82 and not doing well. I did not make new friends in my 50s or 60s. I thought the book club would always be there. I thought 6 friends was enough. It was not enough. Now I am 80, and most of the people who knew me when I was young are gone. My children visit when they can, but they have their own lives. My grandchildren are lovely, but they do not remember what I was like at 30 or 40 or 50. They only know me as Grandma Eleanor, the old woman in the chair. The loneliness of outliving your peer group is something I cannot adequately describe. It is not the same as being alone. It is being surrounded by people who care about you, but do not really know you. Make new friends in your 50s and 60s. Make younger friends. Make older friends. Make friends at the gym and the coffee shop and the volunteer organization. Cast a wide net, because you have no idea who is going to outlive whom. Friendship is not something you can stockpile. It is something you have to keep building, decade after decade, or you will end up alone. Lesson number 6. Nobody is coming to save you, and you need to save yourself now. When I was 58, I found a lump in my breast. I ignored it for 6 months because I was scared and busy and convinced it was nothing. By the time I finally saw a doctor, it was stage 2. I had surgery, chemotherapy, radiation. I survived, but barely. I tell you this not for sympathy, but because it is emblematic of how I lived my 50s and 60s. I ignored warning signs. I put off doctor's appointments. I did not save enough money. I did not have hard conversations with Richard about what we wanted at the end of our lives. I did not write a will until I was 72. I just assumed everything would work itself out. It did not work itself out. It fell apart, and I was not prepared. When Richard got sick, we did not have long-term care insurance. We did not have a financial plan for what happens when one person needs full-time care. We had not talked about what he would want if he could not communicate. I had to make decisions in the dark, and I made a lot of them wrong. Here is the truth. Nobody is coming to rescue you from old age. Not your children, not the government, not fate. If you do not prepare for what is coming, you are going to face it in chaos and panic, instead of with clarity and control. Have the hard conversations now. Get your legal documents in order. Save more than you think you need. Buy the long-term care insurance. Make a plan for what happens if you get sick or your spouse gets sick or you outlive your money. Do not wait until there is a crisis. The crisis is coming. Be ready for it. Lesson number 7. The last 30 years go faster than the first 50, and you cannot get any of them back. I do not know how to explain this in a way that will make you feel the urgency I feel, but I have to try. When I was 50, the future felt infinite. When I was 60, I still thought I had plenty of time. When I was 70, I started to realize time was speeding up. Now I am 80, and I have no idea where the last 30 years went. I blinked, and my children were middle-aged. I blinked, and my grandchildren were teenagers. I blinked, and Richard was gone. And I was old, and it was all over so much faster than I ever imagined. Time does not move at the same speed throughout your life. When you are young, a year is a huge percentage of your life, so it feels long. When you are old, a year is a tiny percentage, so it feels like nothing. The years stop being individual experiences and start blurring into each other. You cannot hold on to them. They slip through your fingers before you even realize they are gone. I am not saying this to depress you. I am saying it to wake you up. Your 50s and 60s are not a waiting room. They are your life. They are happening right now. And if you spend them telling yourself you will do the important things later, later is going to arrive, and you are going to realize you waited too long. Say the things you need to say. Take the trips you want to take. Spend time with the people you love. Forgive the grudges. Make the phone call. Write the letter. Do it now, not later, because later might not come. Or it might come when you are too tired or too sick or too alone to do anything with it. I am 80 years old. I live alone in a small apartment my daughter helped me find after I could no longer manage the house Richard and I lived in for 40 years. I have a photograph of Richard on the table beside me. He is 35 in the picture, standing in the backyard with our dog. He looks so young. We both were. I talk to him sometimes. I tell him about the kids, about the great-grandchildren he never got to meet, about how much I miss him. He does not answer, but I keep talking anyway, because that is what love becomes when you are old, a conversation with someone who is not there anymore. If I could go back to my 50s, if I could sit across from that woman who thought she had all the time in the world, I would tell her this: you do not have all the time in the world. You have right now. That is it. That is all any of us have. So stop waiting, stop planning, stop telling yourself it will all work out later. Build the body you need. Love the people you have. Make new friends. Prepare for what is coming. Retire into something, not away from something. Save yourself because nobody else is going to do it. And pay attention. Pay attention to every single day, because they are going faster than you think, and you cannot slow them down, and you cannot get any of them back. I am 80 years old, and I wish I had learned these lessons 30 years ago. You still have time, but not as much as you think.